Hey, folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. The circus has come to New York City. It's that time of the year again, folks. The UN General Assembly is taking place all this week in New York, and it's off to a very predictable start in the worst of ways. Now, over the past few weeks, we've been telling you that several Western nations plan to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. They did exactly that on Sunday. Great Britain, Canada, Australia, and Portugal just yesterday saying we are recognizing a Palestinian state, whether Israel likes it or not. And today, France, Luxembourg, and Belgium are ready to follow suit. So that's 7 Western nations, including members of the European Union, selling Israel down the river, knifing Israel not only in the back, but in the front, and recognizing a Palestinian state. In the process, gift-wrapping Hamas and rewarding Hamas with exactly what it's wanted all along. It's a reward for the atrocity of October 7th. Hamas slaughters 1,200 Israelis, takes hundreds more hostage, causes a regional war, and Hamas is essentially rewarded now by the West with a Palestinian state. It's madness, but we live in times, I've said this many times, that the prophet Isaiah described very accurately, where good is called evil and evil is called good. Bible times, prophetic times. Welcome to 2025 and welcome to the UN General Assembly. Now, President Trump thankfully said, you guys are nuts, essentially. You're rewarding terror. You're only emboldening Hamas. And there's no surprise that Hamas came out today and thanked the likes of Great Britain and Canada for recognizing a Palestinian state. Why would Hamas now, folks, surrender and lay down its arms and release the hostages when it's getting exactly what it wants from the West? Why should Hamas make any concessions? They're thinking, look, if we dig in and stick this out a little longer, we may end up not only with our lives, but we may end up in power in some form or fashion of this Palestinian state that the world is declaring, again, whether Israel likes it or not. Well, guess what? President Trump doesn't like it, and Israel certainly does not like it. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said today, it's never going to happen. The Palestinian state that you're proposing is a pipe dream, and not only that, Bibi said he will put forth Israel's response when he returns from the UN General Assembly. Now, he speaks in New York at the General Assembly this Friday, folks, September 26th. Circle it on your calendar. One possible response Israel could have is declaring sovereignty over the biblical heartland, Judea and Samaria. Now, the so-called international community calls it the West Bank. Here on the Watchman, we call it Judea and Samaria because that's what the Bible calls it. Again, this is the biblical heartland. A good chunk of Jesus' ministry took place in Judea and Samaria, and a good chunk of your Bible, in particular, the pre-Davidic period, all unfolded in that beautiful region that the world wants to rip away from Israel and give to the Palestinians less than 2 years after October 7th. You can't make this stuff up, but we've got sanity in D.C. with President Trump. We've got sanity right now in Jerusalem with Prime Minister Netanyahu. And hey, if you watched yesterday's Charlie Kirk memorial service, you may have spiritual sanity and spiritual revival matched with the political moves that are being made by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. I believe revival is afoot here in the United States, and we've got 2 strong leaders, and I'm hoping it comes to Israel as well. We've got 2 Churchillian leaders working in tandem to resist this global tide against Israel, the madness that we're seeing. Also, you can help resist it. You may say, what are you talking about? Well, you can invest in Israel. As the world is boycotting Israel, as the European Union is talking about sanctioning Israeli businesses, pulling out of trade agreements with Israel, you can step up. Guess what? You can diversify your investments while supporting Israel. Wise Money Israel, they're our partner for today's newscast. They manage Israeli stock and bond accounts for people from 30 nations. Now, by investing in Israel, you not only bless Israel, but you can also make a profit. Imagine that. As Israel battles to hold on to its land, you can support the world's one and only Jewish state by backing successful Israeli companies that power the economy and sustain the Jewish people. Wise Money Israel's professionals wisely invest your funds in the local Israeli market. Look, Israel is booming. Israel's economy is one of the most resilient and innovative in the world, despite all the chaos of the past 2 years. You can help restore Israel to the blessing God promised her. You can align your finances with your faith, diversify your investments, and partner with Israeli believers who share your values. See the description below and sign up for a free consultation today, folks. It is a great company that you need to check out. Speaking of great people and great Israelis, our good friend, Knesset member Ohad Tal joined me recently to talk about, number one, this push for a Palestinian state, but number two, I mentioned sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, potentially annexing Judea and Samaria. We broke that down. And then what about the future of Judeo-Christian Western civilization if Israel is the first line of defense for that civilization and the West, or many Western nations, are throwing Israel under the bus? What does that say for the future? I break it down with Ohad Tal. Take a look. You would think that all of the West would support Israel for common sense reasons, as you just laid out. Yet we have European leaders repeatedly condemning Israel, saying they're going to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly. What are your thoughts on that? This seems like cultural suicide by Western Europe.
Exactly, but this is exactly the one thing that is in common with all these countries, France and Canada and the UK. They're all countries who basically lost hope. They've lost hope for their own country. They are not fighting for against the radical Islamists who took over their own countries. I don't know if you know that, but I think in about 9 of the biggest cities in the UK, the mayors are Muslims. These are cities that were taken by radical Islamists. Now, these countries seeing Israel fighting back, not caving to these radicals, and you just can't stand it. So I think, we should respectfully disagree with these countries and tell them, you try to push us to make more concessions. You try to push us for these crazy ideas. We had enough of that. We've seen exactly what is the result. The result is October 7th. The result is the greatest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. You don't like us? We will manage just fine even without you.
Yeah.
And thank God for America. Thank God. Thank God for President Trump, a world leader who, despite all these pressures from all over, he stands with the truth, with Israel, and realizing the simple truth that we are serving America. We are serving the forces of good against these radicals who are trying to destroy our shared civilization.
Yeah, a beacon of sanity here in Washington, D.C. right now. Thank God, Ohad.
God.
And you mentioned the reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination. It reminded me of the reaction of the radical left and Islamists to October 7th, where they praised Hamas, actually celebrated death and carnage. That's what we're up against. But thank God that U.S.-Israel alliance remains very strong. And for Israel, I believe, Ohad, to remain strong, Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland, which I know is near and dear to your heart, of course, and all of our hearts as Bible believers, Israeli sovereignty over this crucial region. What are the prospects for that? What does that mean? And why is that so important?
First of all, I think that's the only relevant answer for this pressure, international pressure from these lost countries, European lost countries who are pushing Israel for more concessions. The answer should be applying full Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. And I think it's also important for Christians, because we all believe in God, and we all believe that God has brought the Jewish people back to their homeland after 2,000 years for a purpose. I believe that purpose is Isaiah's prophecy to make that place, to make Jerusalem a house of prayers for all nations. That is the purpose that we are here to serve. So I think strong Israel and sovereign Israel, and especially over Judea and Samaria, our biblical homeland, will be good not just for us, it will be good for humanity. It will be good for Christians. It will be good for Muslims as well, because, just even a simple example, before the Six-Day War, before they had the control over the old city of Jerusalem, Jews and Christians were not allowed to go to their holiest sites and worship. Today, under Israeli sovereignty, everybody can come and worship. Jews, Christians, Muslims, everybody can come and worship. That's our vision. That's what we are doing. And yes, I think the time has come for us to recognize our purpose, our identity, realizing that only applying sovereignty over our biblical homeland will help to promote true peace, stability, and prosperity. It will be good for everybody. The time has come right now, especially with President like Trump, who supports Israel that much, with strong evangelical Christians supporting the president. I think now is the time to do the right thing, to apply God's policies in Israel, and I am certain that we will see that will allow to develop a real peace, a true peace in the region.
Yeah, and President Trump did the right thing in his first term, Ohad, in moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem.
Right.
Recognizing Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the nation of Israel. And you figure there'll be wailing and howling among the so-called international community this time around if he supports sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. But as you said, it is the right thing to do. Gaza.
Erick, I must say just one last thing. You know, it's just like happened to us when we applied sovereignty over the Golan Heights. You know, everybody said, don't do that. That will be horrible. That will bring World War III and all these threats. Well, you know, we applied sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and thank God we've done that. Today, everybody in the world understand that thank God that the Jews control the Golan Heights. I mean, who's protecting Christians and Jews in Syria today? Israel is doing that. And if you would not have been there in the Golan Heights, we would not have able to do just that. So, yes, strong Israel, sovereign Israel is good for everybody.
Yeah, Ohad, so well said. And the world should be thanking Israel also for vanquishing Iran's nuclear program and smashing Iran's ring of fire. Ohad, last question, about 90 seconds left. Speaking of that ring of fire, Hamas on its last legs, it seems. How important is it for Israel to finish the job in Gaza so there is no more Hamas there and they're vanquished entirely?
Extremely important. Extremely important. I mean, this whole war started because of October 7th, because the attack Hamas initiated. I mean, we didn't initiate this war. Hamas initiated this war by committing these unspeakable atrocities of killing and raping and burning families alive, with over 1,200 people that were slaughtered on that day and 250 people that were kidnapped into the Hamas dungeons. So, yes, we have to complete the job, to finish with Hamas, to make sure that Hamas will not stay in power. Because if we will allow them to stay in power, basically what we are saying is that we invite more and more terrorists to destroy us and to destroy Western civilization. You have to understand, when we are sending messages of weakness, we are only inviting more and more terrorists. So I think, yes, for the best interest of the world, not just of Israel, we need to finish it. We need to make sure that this terror organization who committed these atrocities will not stay in power.
Yeah, this would be the equivalent of leaving the Nazis in power in the wake of World War II. This is a modern-day Nazi death cult in Gaza, and it must be destroyed. And hopefully, as President Trump has laid out, there could be a new day in Gaza, God willing. MK Ohad Tal, we can't thank you enough for all your tireless work. And
Thank you so much.
Yes, and bringing Christians and Jews together and your visits here in the U.S. It's such important work. We really appreciate
more than
it.
anything.
Yes, God bless Ohad. Always a pleasure to sit down with our good friend, Knesset member Ohad Tal. Folks, two quick things before we go. Number one, if you have not subscribed, be sure to subscribe to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. We would love for you to join us here shoulder to shoulder as Watchmen and Women on the Wall. Join close to 1.1 million subscribers for such a time as this. Secondly, we will be monitoring the situation all this week at the UN General Assembly. We will bring you updates. It's a pretty explosive situation, folks, and I believe it has major prophetic implications. I think of the book of Zechariah, chapter 12, which talks about Jerusalem, which, look, these Western nations want to see Jerusalem as the centerpiece of a Palestinian state. Zechariah 12 talks about Jerusalem becoming a burdensome stone, that the entire world will come against Jerusalem in the days to come, and all of them, I'm paraphrasing, will be cut to pieces because they're trying to divide God's land. They covet God's one and only eternal city, Jerusalem. Ultimately, it's not going to work, but expect the pressure to increase. I mentioned earlier, revival on the rise here in America, but as the light increases, the darkness will as well. So stay in prayer in these Bible times that we are living in. Until next time, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace.